Howdy and welcome back to the workshop. For those of you who are blessed with the keen powers of observation, you may notice that it doesn't look like it normally does, and that is because we are leaving immediately, because today we're going to be talking about what makes tools cool. What makes cool tools cool and what makes tool cools tool, you know what I'm saying? But in order to be able to do that, we need to go buy a cool tool. Great excuse, right? All right, I need to pause for a second to talk about something that we should all be thinking about factoring into our daily lives. And that is today's sponsor, which is Factor. Factor is a meal subscription service that makes clean eating fast and easy. Now, the way that it works is you go on their website, you let them know what your preferences are, you know, gluten-free, calorie-smart, chef's choice, keto, vegan, and then they send you fresh, never frozen, chef-prepared meals straight to your door. That means you get a solid, fresh, wholesome meal that you don't have to cook. Throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes, or you can cook it in an oven also, but it's a really convenient and fast way to get good food. Now, I love to cook. I think cooking is great. I make chef's knives. I think using chef's knives is fun. But I most certainly do not always have time to make food. Whether it's dinner or lunch, whatever it is, it's really nice to have the option to be able to have good food quickly. They're constantly switching out the meals that they have available. There's 34 different meals available weekly, so there's always different options for you to choose from. So if you guys are interested in checking out good, wholesome food ready in just 2 minutes, go to factor75.com. Use code WillStelter50 for 50% off your first Factor box. Thank you to Factor for sponsoring today's episode. With that, let's hippity hop back on in. As we all know, the key to a good road trip, some good music.
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
So we're making the 7-hour drive down to Salt Lake City to pick up a new drill press. My current drill press is a bit of a cheap Home Depot drill press that my father bought for me when I was just getting started, and it's worked for the last 9 years that I've had it, but it has zero cool factor, and well, we've got to fix that. So this is a Bergmaster turret drill. It has 6 spindles. They don't spin at the same time, thankfully. That would be horrifying. But you can swap in between each spindle. So you can have different sizes chucks for different size drill bits. And it came with 2 Tapmatic heads on it, which means that you can do power tapping very easily. It's about the fastest way that you can cut internal threads into a hole. I've wanted one of these for forever, so I'm very happy about this find. We got the machine on the trailer. It looks awesome. These things are so cool. Time to strap it down, then we're gonna go visit with my buddy Lucas O'Hara, Grizzly Forge, see his shop, and then maybe do a little bit of antiquing with the boys. Visiting with Lucas and Tori is one of my favorite things to do in Salt Lake City. They are awesome guys and they make some sweet stuff. Definitely worth a follow. I'll throw a link in the bio down below if you want to check them out. So we spent the night in Victor, Idaho, just a short drive from the home of knife collector and woodworker Jim Birkenfield. Jim has an awesome collection of knives and is a really, really nice guy. I've gotten to know him at the last couple knife shows that I've been to, and it was a really great time to see his collection. After that, we drove down to Idaho Falls to work with another craftsman that we'll be releasing the video about next week. Alrighty, well, we made it back home. I got the drill press unloaded, and now it's time to dig into a little bit of cleanup. I don't want to remove any of the original paint. I'll use the Scotch-Brite on the bare metal surfaces, and then just a rag, and maybe the brass brush on some of the painted surfaces, but I want to keep it as original as possible. So let's go ahead and dig on in. Last night, my electrician came over to help get this thing figured out, get it started. I had played around a little bit with it yesterday, but I was missing one crucial part, and that is that the 110 volt plug that comes out the back of this machine that one would assume, because it leads to the sump pump, would power the sump pump. But in fact, it needs it to turn on. So with Nolan's expertise, we were able to get this thing turned on. Look at that. We've got high and low speeds on each spindle. So one of the reasons why this drill press is cool is that each spindle has 4 different speeds. Half of that is controlled by the pulleys on the back, and half of it is controlled by the 2-speed motor. So now that we've got it running and cleaned up a little bit, I'm going to give it a nice degreasing before a coat of this gold spray paint to really bring it back to life, make it stand out in the shop real well. I'm just kidding. I would never, ever paint something like this. You need to be very, very, very careful when you're restoring an old tool not to get paint on things like the ways, and I honestly think that this machine has earned its patina, so we're going to leave it as is. I do think there are some people that do a good job at painting, but for the most part, I'd say that it can bring down the value on a machine. You can get paint in things that are not supposed to have paint, which is harmful to the function of the machine, and as a general rule, I would say that unless you're going to go through the process of completely tearing a machine apart and completely stripping off the old paint and sweating out the grease and whatnot and then repainting it, I don't think that it's worth painting things. Just my opinion. It's correct, but it's just my opinion. Well, now that we've got this thing running, obviously it's not in its final place yet, but it's running, it works. It's so cool. But why is it cool? I know why I think it's cool, but why should you think that it's cool? There's a few reasons. Obviously, cool factor is quite a subjective thing. But there are a few things that I think most people who are really into tools would say give something some cool factor. Number one, probably rarity. Rarity multiplies the coolness of an already cool tool. I'd say the second thing that's kind of important for cool tools is their function. What's it do? Is it good at what it does? That's cool. And if it's also rare, then it's double cool. This has a massive amount of function. It means that I have the ability to have 6 different drill bits, cutters, taps, whatever, in the footprint of one machine, as well as the ability to have different spindle speeds, which means that I can have a better spindle speed for the specific drill bit that I have in each spindle. It also has coolant, which means that I can cut through hardened materials, keep things cooler, and that's great as well. So this is a fairly rare machine. It's an early Bergmaster. It has great function, and it also has a third important part. Does it look cool? It does look cool. Look at this. Tell me that's not cool. If you comment that down below, I will block you. I'm not joking. The first person that I see comment that this isn't cool, straight to jail, straight away. A few of the other nerdier things are, how much does it weigh? The heavier something is, the cooler it is. General rule for tools. Big power hammers, big bench vices, big lathes, they're all very cool. Little things are also very, very cool. Little bench vices, little lathes. Now I would say that most of the tools that I have in my shop are pretty dang cool. I don't buy tools that I think are stupid for the most part. I'd say the dumbest tool in my shop, Isaiah is saying that this wrench isn't cool, but I think that we can all agree objectively that this wrench is cool. It looks like Davy Jones's wrench. It looks like it sat on the bottom of the ocean for like 100 years and then someone pulled it out and this is how it looks. Obviously that's not a functional tool, but I would say that the vast majority of the machines that I have in my shop I think are really, really cool. I love my power hammers. The way that they were made is very interesting. There's a lot that went into them, both big, complex castings that then had to be machined several different ways with precise holes, precise angles. Very, very cool tools. I think that my lathe is super cool. It has an element of style introduced into it with that Art Deco style casting. It also has a big motor in it, which adds to the cool factor. It's also quite old, which I think is very neat as well. That's another thing that I think comes into play. When was the tool made? I think there are some new tools that are quite cool, my Coal Ironworks press being one of them. Not that it has the old or the heavy factor necessarily, but its function is amazing. It is one of the most functional and effective tools that I have in my shop, and that makes it very cool. I think some other interesting things about these old tools that I have is that oftentimes you can't just go out and buy them, you know. If you want to find a Bergmaster drill press, actually you probably can do that because eBay is a wild resource. I found this one on eBay. Salem Straub sent it to me. He's like, hey man, the drill press down in Utah, you should go buy it. And I was like, ah man, I want one really bad. I wanted a Bergmaster for years, but it was like, do I really want to drive to Utah? And then the guy like lowered the price after I'd been up for a week, and I was like, oh no. And then I shot him a lower offer than he had it listed for, and he accepted it. So Isaiah and I hopped in the truck and drove down there. But these drill presses are not super easy to find. They are around. They are a very useful tool, so not very many of them were scrapped. They also only started making them in the late 50s or early 60s. That being said, if you want to buy another one on eBay, it's going to be like $2,000, and that's ridiculous. So I feel very fortunate to get to go out and buy cool tools, especially tools that I need pretty much just to be able to fix my other tools, like the lathe. I will use that for bladesmithing like this much, and I could use a lathe that's this big to do the things that I need for bladesmithing with it. But it allows me to be able to make other parts and pieces for my other machines, which allow me to make knives mo better. I want to thank you guys for following along and allowing me to be able to build out my shop with these cool tools. I hope that you guys, when you find cool tools, with reckless abandon, purchase and restore them and bring them back to life. I want to preface that by saying be careful when you buy old stuff. Make sure that the way that you're trying to bring it back to life is not going to wreck it in the process. I want to encourage you guys to go out and find the cool tools in your area, purchase them, use them, make cool stuff, restore cool tools. This one actually didn't really need, it just needed cleaned up a little bit. It wasn't really a restoration. So if you guys enjoyed the video, if you like cool tools, if you like knives, make sure to like and subscribe so you can keep on following along. Thank you to our patron, and thank you to Factor for sponsoring today's episode. With that, I'll see you next time.